And I think it's really affected how the United States has become divided. We've been taken over because we're no longer critically thinking about both sides of an issue.
Cool. Well, so apparently it looked like fun, huh?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I like it when I get, multiple in a row here with groups of friends and that sort of thing. That's always a good time.
Yeah. We came down to enjoy a weekend together from Columbus, Ohio, and I'm from Elkhart, he's from Chicago.
Oh, wow, cool. Oh, so you just kind of all met up in the middle here?
Yeah.
That's neat. Awesome. Once again, my name is Nate. What's your name?
Laura.
Laura. How do you spell Lora? All right, cool. So Laura, just had a nice conversation with your friend Gretchen there.
Yeah.
Is there a particular belief that you would like to explore in a similar way?
I would like the reenactment of the Fairness Act that President Reagan had done away with in newscasting.
Okay, the Fairness Act.
Fairness.
Fairness. That makes more sense. I was like, I haven't heard of that, but now I know what you mean. Okay, so you think we should reenact the Fairness Act. All right, you want to explain a little bit about the Fairness Act and what it is?
Okay, the Fairness Act, as I understand it, was enacted that news commentators would give both the pros and cons of the information provided, of opinions. They always, when I grew up with the Fairness Act, and my parents and my siblings, we always watched the news every night, and the pros and cons of issues were always discussed as a family at the dinner table, after the news. It was the thing we always did.
So a lot of civic education right there at your dinner table, really.
Yeah,
it's kind of followed up,
Yeah. And it, I think it involved a lot of critical thinking on both parts. And after they did away with the Fairness Act, then what happened is a lot of these opinion newscasts, they call them news, evolved with one opinion always followed versus another opinion. And so people would pick oftentimes the opinion that they wanted to hear rather than opening themselves up to both sides of that opinion. I think it was a type of propaganda, in my opinion. And a lack of, I think one must hear both sides of any issue. And because a lot of times there's good things on both sides. It's not a black or a white.
Gotcha.
And I think that because of this, people became more close-minded and more emotional and allowed themselves to be subject to some falsehoods rather than truth in news.
Okay. So, Okay, so I'm hearing a few things. Let me just go ahead and make sure I'm understanding you properly. So, you think we should reinstitute the Fairness Act, and the reason for that is without the Fairness Act, which mandated that newscasts presented both sides of an issue, right? Without that, we had the development of these opinion news shows and maybe certain opinion news channels and publications, etc. That then, and let me make sure I understand this part. I might be inferring more than you're saying. So then, like, audiences, like, people would choose the news source that they already agreed with, and then they wouldn't hear the other perspective, potentially. And that leads to more closed-mindedness and more emotional thinking, and people become more prone to propaganda or something along those lines?
It's kind of like lobbyists.
Okay.
People pick the channel that agrees with them, and therefore the channel starts being more and more they try to please that particular audience.
Yeah. Audience capture, I think, is the term I've heard.
Yes.
Does that sound? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think it's really affected how the United States has become divided. We've been taken over because we're no longer critically thinking about both sides of an issue.
Okay. So I'm going to try to kind of summarize all that and see if you agree with this statement. Okay. If we reinstituted the Fairness Act, then that would lead to less division in the country and maybe bring about some other benefits for government or society, that sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And what do you think the main reason is that you believe this is true? Is it partially your experience watching the news when the Fairness Act was instituted?
Yes, I really do try to watch. My sister taught me this, to watch both the news, like on the left, and the news on the right.
Okay.
To take time to watch both channels.
And what do you see when you watch that?
Completely different take on the same issue. And the singling out of certain instances to promote their own outlook.
So both a bias in selecting what to report on, and then also a bias in how they report the things they do report on?
Right. I try to follow, there was a bias rating as to what channels or what newscasters are more unbiased. And I watch the unbiased as my primary, but I want to watch both sides as well to see. I have some relatives, that we've had arguments. It's amazing, what people believe in, and there's good points on both sides, and it really, really bothers me on this great country that, that we fail to look into the other person's eyes and walk in their shoes and understand the other side of an issue. Okay.
So it sounds like these observations are a big part of what's holding up your belief that we need the Fairness Act back, right? You've been able to compare and contrast kind of how things used to be with how things are now. You've also done some comparing and contrasting between different news sources, trying to watch, and you've noticed differences in how they report on things that you would say are problematic. How confident are you that we should reinstitute the Fairness Act and that it would help with these things?
Well, I think that my people who had been my parents' age, the older, as I get older, but they have had the civic training at school. They have been in World War II or the Korean War, or they had listened to both sides and feel an obligation to support voting and listening to the news and being informed. And other countries, on their elections, they're not so geared on the lobbyists or for contributions to the political party. They limit their TV time equally in a fair way, and it's the politicking is limited certain time. And the TV is free, for them to some of the other democratic countries limit this. And it seems like we politicize every single day. And I think part of the Fairness Act is watching what they say and do, and let's make that more fair too. The fairness in politicking and in the news and being informed. I think critical thinking is really, really important, especially for teenagers. I have grandchildren are teenagers now, and it's really important they see both sides of an issue before they impulsively taken
Yeah.
action.
You got a spider going across your hat there.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. I've been kind of watching. I'm like, I need to tell her about this
Thank
spider.
you. Yeah, it's like the fly.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like it's something you're pretty passionate about, right?
Yeah.
Let me kind of try to summarize the reasons that I'm hearing for why you think we should do this, right? They reinstitute the Fairness Act. So a big part of it is, it sounds like you're doing a lot of comparing and contrasting between different situations. So you've compared and contrasted how things were when you were growing up versus how things are now. You've also observed the generations that came before you and the way that they engaged with politics while the Fairness Act was still in place. And look at maybe once again how things are happening now. You've also compared and contrasted different news sources. And then you've also talked about differences between maybe the United States without a Fairness Act versus other countries that do have a similar standard. So between those kind of reasons, past experience watching or consuming news media now, and then differences between the United States and other countries, which one of those three main reasons do you think has the biggest impact on the belief you have?
I think the division of the country currently,
Oh, okay.
and the dedication of people who have only listened to one side of the news,
Okay.
and then their corresponding actions or beliefs that they take as a result of that.
So it's maybe the attitudes and actions of people who have gotten themselves siloed off?
Yeah, it would
Maybe-
be the right or the left. It's siloed off.
Gotcha.
And listening is such an art that people, and critical thinking that people aren't following as they did in the past.
Okay.
I think that we were blowing up and we're getting emotional, and I think rational thought is really important for the continuation of our democracy.
Gotcha. So if you didn't see the kind of division that we have in the country today, if you didn't think there was a big problem with division, would that lower your confidence that we need a Fairness Act?
Well, it's kind of like a cause and effect. Is it the chicken or the egg? If we, I think actions speak louder, and what causes those actions is important.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that I understand.
It's a cause. I think that the division in the country is a cause of
Right.
the undoing of the Fairness Act, and people.
Yeah, you've made that connection,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what I'm asking this question for is it's something called a real reason check.
Okay.
The idea is to try to figure out, is this reason, right, the division you see currently, is this a real reason, as in, does this actually influence your confidence that we need a Fairness Act, right? So the idea of this question is, if we didn't have a lot of division, right, if it seemed like the country was getting along just fine without a Fairness Act and people seemed well informed and we didn't have the kind of animosity that we see today in politics, would that make you think, oh, maybe we don't need a Fairness Act?
Not necessarily.
No?
No.
Okay,
no,
why not?
Because it depends on the state of the actions, the implication. If it's just a decision, it's just a belief that you don't take action on. Like, somebody's trespassing my land, I have the right to shoot him. Well, without listening to see why he's on the land, maybe his car broke down. I really think that I would still think we need the Fairness Act. I really, really do, because I don't know how critical thinking would be involved without knowing about having both sides of the story.
So could you think of anything that would make you less confident that we need a Fairness Act? Is there something you could learn that would maybe make you think we don't need one?
really. Not
Okay.
really.
Is there anything you could learn that would make you even more confident when you did Fairness Act?
Well, no, I just think that I have been amazed at the different perspectives that people have judging upon what they see. Like, some people think nothing, that Congress has done nothing. Well, Congress has done some things this year that has been important. And I think the public needs to be aware of that.
Okay.
And that Congress has done some things that they haven't acted on, and people should be aware of that. It both, I just think information gives people power and personal responsibility.
Okay, so it sounds like now what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong once again, is that the Fairness Act maybe is a way to make sure that people get information, and that information, having more information and maybe more reliable information will, lead to better outcomes.
Yeah.
Does that sound accurate?
People
Okay.
can still decide what they want to believe in, but at least they've seen both sides.
Okay. So maybe the more fundamental principle here with the Fairness Act is just to make sure that everybody's getting the information they need.
Yes.
Okay. Because that's a good kind of in and of itself.
I think so.
Okay. All right. Cool. Laura, any other thoughts or questions for me?
No.
Feel good?
I feel
All right.
good, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thanks for talking with me.
Okay, thank you.
That was fun. All right.
I could go talk about overdrive, but okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right. One's good for now. I don't want to monopolize your time. You guys can, get on with your day and enjoy your hangout.
You teach science.
Get together. I teach up at. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this conversation thought-provoking. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please consider hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and ringing the bell to be notified when I release a new interview. Your support helps encourage me to continue producing videos of these meaningful discussions. Also, please don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments section. Respectful discourse centered on constructive criticism is great for helping me improve. Please also remember to be kind to my conversation partner, just as I aim to be during my interviews, as they may watch this video and read the comments. Stay curious and keep questioning. See you next time.